to lead line, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Hello, Dr. Kwende.
Good afternoon, Dr. Webb. How are you?
I am so well, and I know we want to say to all those who are viewing and those who will see this recording later, we wish you so well across this planet. Yeah, it's great to be here again with you, Dr. Martin. And I honor you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Same here. Thank you, Dr. Webb.
So today we're still talking about the wealth equation. In fact, this is our series, and today is specifically on keeping it simple and how to develop financial confidence. So Dr. Kwende and I will share a little bit about ourselves initially so that you're on the same page as us in terms of where we come from, why we choose to be focused as we're focused. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper. And then based upon your engagement, we'll go even deeper. So you want to start, Dr. Kwende, and share a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. Sure, Dr. Webb. Yeah, so my name is Dr. Martin Kwende. I'm actually from a little country called Southern Cameroon. Some people call it Amazonia. I studied, I had a scholarship. I studied in England. And I have a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I used to work in medical device space. But what happened as from childhood, I never knew my father. My mom passed away when I was 16 years old. And I had the fortune of getting a scholarship. And so I became very independent from like age of 18, right? But with my job and my career, I came from England to Silicon Valley, and I did pretty okay. But what I started noticing when they talked to me about financial information is I didn't really know much. So I paid a financial advisor, and then I discovered something called the cash flow quadrant. That says that 95% of the population is on the left side of the cash flow quadrant, and the other 5% are on the right side. But those 5% own $95 of wealth, 95% of the wealth. And I was asking myself, my parents trained me, my mother trained me to be on the left side that has no wealth. And even with all the education, there was still nothing to go for, right? And they pray that I'm going to become wealthy, even though they trained me to be broke. And they were doing the best that they can. So I have decided for the last 6 years that I'm going to basically change my knowledge about money. And I'm going to empower the community as well. And I'm just glad to report that, 6 years ago, I took a very difficult decision to quit my career that I worked my entire life for. And I took on this journey. I got my wife out of work. And at this point, as of yesterday, we got a major milestone, making $1 million in our business. So I'm very excited about that and grateful for the opportunity to impact other people's lives. We already trained people that make over $1 million as well. And our goal for this year was to have 4 people that cross $1 million mark in our platform.
So proud of you. So proud of you. And so you literally took what you had, which was quite a bit in terms of the wealth of your mother's ideas, your father's investment, your brother's leadership and support of you, and whatever else you could in the environment. And you remain unwavering, even though you lost your parents early in life. You remain unwavering, even though the trajectory was that you would stay on one side of the cash flow quadrant. You'd be an employee. You'd consider being an entrepreneur, but you wouldn't be in a place where you would be on the right side of the cash flow quadrant, where you literally own your business, you're running it, and you can just go away and it's still functioning. Or in the latter part, which less people are in, you're an investor and you have enough wealth and you have enough multiple sources of income. You don't have to think about income, right? Yes. You somehow did that. And so we're going to go deeper and describe and discuss that. Let me share a little bit about me. I too I had some experiences that I wouldn't welcome on anyone growing up. I was born to a child who had been abused. I was abused. That child, thank goodness, chose to give me life. She was only 13 years old. And like her, I ended up in foster care. And for whatever reason in my mind, I envisioned myself beyond those circumstances. I can't tell you why. I wasn't told that I was worthy. In fact, I was reminded that I probably wouldn't live beyond the age of 20. And at some point, something happened that was remarkable physically, in terms of my physical well-being, that made it very clear to doctors that I wouldn't live beyond the age of 20. Well, here it is. Fast forward, I'm 62. And I'm extremely grateful. And that gratitude, even given I had challenging circumstances as a child, that gratitude is part of the reason why I am where I am right now. And again, I can't tell you why I had gratitude. I was so appreciative that I had housing. I was so appreciative that I had food, independent of whether I had the loving environment. I was just appreciative that I had people around who made certain that I was safeguarded, whether they were part of the system or whether they were in one or more of the homes, even given a lot of the negative stuff, which is another conversation. For those who need to be further inspired to pull themselves out of challenges, which you and I have done, and we did with a lot of effort. It does take a lot of effort, it does take a lot of commitment. So fast forward, I end up in higher education, not because I had a clue that I had intelligence that was beyond my knowing at that moment. I went to higher education because someone said there's housing, and I didn't want to be homeless again. And so being there, I began to learn. I began to triangulate. I saw the fascinating aspect of learning psychology, which is connected to the biology courses I was taking, and psychology connected to the sociology courses I was taking. And I couldn't figure out why these disciplines were separated, because in my mind, I was integrating, I was seeing, I was triangulating, and I was seeing the power. The biggest takeaway from me at that moment, when I'm not quite 19, because I started college when I was 17, was that, wow, if this higher education thing can do this for me, help me understand that I can move outside of just survival and to create and design my life. I didn't know then to thrive, but to design my life, I want more people to experience it. So I stayed in higher education, and my trajectory continued to move, because my vision in terms of what I wanted to do in terms of impact grew. I ultimately became a college president. I ultimately became a vice chancellor. I ultimately left that almost 40-year experience, and something happened to me. I was shaken up. Without going into all the details, had challenges, and I kept saying, there's something I'm supposed to do. There's something bigger. And then I went back to that teenager that said I wanted to be an educational ambassador. And then I realized it wasn't just specific to higher education, which is where I rested for many years and worked tirelessly on behalf of a lot of folks. It was really to make an impact on a broader scale. And so I made a commitment several years that I wanted to leave a legacy for my 50 plus nieces and nephews. Yes, 50 plus nieces and nephews. Many of them are grandnieces and nephews. And I wanted to do it in such a way where they would be inspired to leave their own legacy, independent of whether people remember my name, their names. The impact on life itself would be profound. And so I said, I need money. I need resources. And it's interesting because, as you know, Dr. Kwende, there's a rather remarkable person that we both know. And I've known her for years. I was able to hire her years ago, and I've worked with her collaboratively even as I retired from higher education. Tomoko, now married to a wonderful man, Tony, Tomoko Ha. And she called me and introduced me to what you're part of, the World Financial Group, and specifically the Pinnacle Group. And that title is so apropos, so on point. A group of individuals, you included, who are about the business of transforming the nature of how we understand how to live, not wealth being just finance. That's only an aspect of it. And if we have the finances set if we're rich in terms of funding, that's wholly inadequate to be wealthy. We know that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So that was my introduction. I'm gonna bring it to close for now. But I also was successful in pursuing PhD programs at Cal. Ended up with a PhD, and then I went on and did remarkable work thanks to a lot of people paving the way that I may never meet. And so, what led you to dream big? Because I know you've dreamed big, and I'll share a little bit more about what led me to dream big.
Well, I believe, growing up, I think I've shared this before. I was a little confused about not having a dad. And at some point, I got a revelation that there was a heavenly father that could take care of my needs if I did everything I needed to do. Right. So I knew that if I performed and I did my part, then God was going to take care of the rest. And because my understanding of the Bible is that, God wants me to live an infinite life to do more, I gained the confidence to be able to dream. And I knew that if I asked for something, I was going to get. If I sought, I was going to find, right? So for me, dreaming has never been an issue. I train my kids, if you want something, you have to ask for it, right? As long as you have faith, you can move mountains. So I've never had an issue dreaming. And truth is, God says, the Bible says you cannot please God without faith, and you cannot dream without having faith, right? You have to believe in something bigger than where we are right now. So for me, dreaming has always been, something that comes naturally because I also want to help the community. So I'm always trying to figure out how to make things fit so everybody can benefit from it.
Yes. And I remember you sharing the legacy, and a couple of your classmates were online with one of our broadcasts, and you were talking about how you, even as a child, you were like a teacher's assistant with informally, a tutor to your peers. And that really manifests the nature of your wiring, or it illuminates your wiring. For me, I don't know why. I just always believe that that this so-called small I is part of something much bigger, which made me understand that the bigger I is really linked to everything that exists, period. And so the degree to which I'm healthy, everything else is slightly more healthy. The degree to which anything is unhealthy, I have to be extra diligent in being more mindful about my well-being in order to influence everything. So I've always felt this connection. And I remember being in a conversation with some other execs, and one person very rudely, because he was filling his oats, his ego took up the entire probably institution that we were at the time. He says, "Oh, those folks in prison, they're throwaway people," or something like that. And I remember being shaken at the core of my energy, And I said to the folks at the table where I sat, and there were just executives in this room, I said, if anyone is in prison, we're all in prison. Now, it doesn't negate the fact that some people engage in behaviors that require that they be locked up for a spell, if not for a long spell. Yet to dismiss anyone, I find inherently flawed, because to dismiss anyone is really dismiss an aspect of ourselves. And so that is part of my wiring, and I can't explain it. I don't need to. I honor it, and I am careful, more mindful about kind of throwing myself out there and being strategic in terms of how I engage with the world around me. So when you had the dream to do what you're doing right now, and you've just achieved with your wife and with your entire remarkable team, a major milestone, that was one of the initial steps. It's not the big picture. It's a piece of the big picture, right? What did you do to operationalize that part of your dream? How did you make it happen? Just
I guess, first of all, I had to, I've always believed in mentorship, right? So if you want to go somewhere you've never been before, is it better to go there by yourself or have someone that has been there hold your hand?
Yeah.
Probably want someone to hold your hand, correct? So when I in school, I always had, some mentor, a professor, whatever. But then when I came into the corporate world, I always had mentors as well. When I came into this financial space, I met a young guy called Eric Olson at the time that I met him. And, he kind of shared with me the basic financial information that intrigued me. At the time, this was actually in 2010. I told him that, I'm very community oriented. I wanted to share the information because I was already paying a financial advisor, but they never shared that information with me. So I told him I needed to share that information with my entire community. So he said, if I needed to do that, I have to get a license and get on board. So I did that. So for 4 years, I just went around just educating the community as much as anybody that wanted to hear. But I didn't pay attention to the business aspect of it at all because I wasn't interested in the business. But in the process, I got really close to him. And he said that he was willing to mentor me. And I saw his income go like 4 times monthly what he used to make. I was like, wow, this is real. But that gave me the chance to really understand the power of the opportunity. And it gave me the confidence of having a mentor that was willing to walk me through the process that I could not fail. So this is why, I was able to ask my wife to quit her career that she loved. My wife's a registered nurse with a master's in nursing. She loved nursing, by the way. So I made her quit that to take care of the kids. And then a few months after I quit my career too, my job, and she was kind of like shocked. But I could only do that because I had the support of mentorship. And I understood that if I had a mentor that could help me, then I was not going to fail if I put in my effort. Because he told me, hey, if you come halfway, I'm going to take you to the top. And I believe that. So that's why I was able to switch and start doing something different.
I want to go back. Thanks for sharing that. I want to go back to, and I'll answer my question too. I want to go back to financial confidence, where it came from. For you, it's so intertwined with your spirit and your belief in God. And for me, I used to use the word God as a kid, but as I got older, I realized the word Great Spirit made sense to me because I'm not learned in terms of any religion. I know enough to know I don't know very much. And I explored a lot of religions. And what I realized is that at the core is an understanding that there's greatness that we're part of, we come from, we go back to. And so for me, it's really a great spirit. And in the same way that you experience. And so however people experience their lives, they have a faith and a higher source, whatever that source happens to be, that really culturally fits, it's understandable for the individual, I say humbly, then leverage it, because that faith is what gets you through nonsense. And the faith, if grounded in some, whatever it's orthodoxy or something, you're able to pull on the kernels of the truths that come out of that particular space, whether it is Christianity, whether it is Judaism, whether it is leveraging the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or Taoism or Buddhism, etc. The powerful thing is understanding that faith in this omnipotent universal source gets us to a place that we can't even imagine when we're unwavering in that faith. And so that was it for me. And I think I told you, Dr. Martin, about a story that I experienced, actual experience I had when I was about 12 or 13. And a few of my brothers we were in this church, and my body, I was elevated as this kid, not knowing why. I was standing up and I gave a testimonial. I didn't even know what I was doing. And out of my mouth came, I'm going to declare to the world. Remember I told you that? And so there's a part of me that understands my responsibility to aid others in the way that you're doing. And it may be slightly different because I'm unique compared to you, your wife, and your team, yet it's powerful. So that understanding, that wiring, that thing that caused me to stand is what keeps me moving. And I would say to anyone else, figure out what motivates you. and go to a space, even if you can't figure it out, go to this imaginary space. No one's there but you. And think about what at the core you want. Do you want a loving family? Do you, as Dr. Kwende has, I have, with all my nieces and nephews, siblings, etc., he has with his loving wife and his children and many others, cousins, etc. Do you want to be fit physically, where you're healthy and you can enjoy that family? Do you want to help me out, Dr. Martin? What are the others beyond that? You want to have
so we define wealth as the 5F, right? Which is what we talk about really. Is about your faith, your finances, faith. In this order: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. Right? That's how I talk about it. Most people look at wealth just in terms of finance. Mm-hmm. That's just one element, and that's part of where the challenge comes in for most people. If you have a lot of money, most of the people that have money are not necessarily fulfilled or happy, right? So at the end of the day, you're really looking for fulfillment or freedom. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't just come from money or having money, right? It's really a lot more than that. That's why I know what we do. Just empowering people with the right knowledge can really help them lead a more fulfilled life. You don't have to have the most money to have a fulfilled life, but you have to have some, right? And I know, people get this concept, money is the root of all evil, stuff like that, just to distract you, right? You do need some money. You have to have some. Why? Because it's the currency we trade in.
Exactly.
Right? It's not about the money itself, because nobody eats money, right? But it's a currency we use to do stuff. You can't go to the shop and just shop without money. That's a way of exchange, right? So we have to have some for sure. And I think for me, just understanding the power of those 5 F's impacts significantly how I look at life and what I think I can bring to the table.
That's powerful. I'm reminded of 2 things. One, when one decides on a path, whatever that path happened to be, and you're sufficiently inspired by it, it is worthy of you, that goal that you've established, you want it to be worthy of you, not the reverse, that it requires not only being as specific as you can, but taking action, right? Yes. And not just waiting to learn. So I'm gaining an understanding of your area of expertise. And I think I've purchased about 15 or 20 books minimum, and I'm systematically going through them. I know that I'm going to read several of them at least 4 or 5, maybe 10 times to really let it sink in. And I have texts that I pick up and I read, which is wonderful because I love text. I also listen to digital. So it's really about educating oneself so that, in my case, I understand what I don't know. And that's part of developing financial confidence. So even if you start off and you don't have faith, well, Dr. Kwende did it because he's well educated. He's earned a PhD. Well, both of us know individuals who were janitors, who literally I listened to a gentleman who was with his family business and training individuals who were high school youth to create Slurpees. And that's what he did. And he went from that environment to being having an unwavering commitment to learn how to work and navigate in this financial world so that he could not only educate others, but he could build a foundation for his family and help others build foundations for their family and leave a legacy. So that's the one thing, is deciding what you're going to do and do it. Execute, and be unwavering in your commitment. So you just heard Dr. Kwende say 6 years. And the first 4 years really learning and sharing and educating, because it was all about giving. And then recognizing, whoa, my mentor says I can create a business. Not only can I create a business, I'm going to create a business. The other thing that comes to mind are the 5 financial IQs. Again, this gentleman you've heard mention with the 4 quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, he talks about the 5 financial IQs, and he's not the only one that talks about this, but he nicely, with his team, summarizes it as such: making more money, protecting your money, budgeting your money, leveraging your money, improving your financial information. Those 5 key things are critical. I'm going to tell a story, and then I want you to tell a story, go wherever you want to go, Dr. Martin. And that is, I remember when I was a teenager, I had no access to any training about finances. All the households I was in fact, anything related to budgeting or finance or money was secret. You are not supposed to know about what's in someone's bank account, and you're not supposed to ask about how much they spend on things. It was not an area to touch. So I don't know about a lot of households, or I didn't know about a lot of households when I was a kid. I just found it curious. Well, how do you how is this thing working? You own a home, you pay for this. I had no clue. So I leave, I find a way to get to the university. I'm an undergrad, and now I am working full-time graveyard, and all that's in my mind is survival, survival, survival. So whatever I take in, I put out. It never occurred to me to save, even just $100. I could have done that instead of buying some junk food. It never occurred to me to save over a period of time. It never occurred to me to figure out why the banking establishment is as it is, why only X percent is made on my money. It never occurred to me that my money, whatever I put in the bank, it didn't stay there long, but let's say that it did. That money was going to be used to send out or create loans for other people who needed loans. And the bank would then charge them whatever the going rate was based upon their credit and other kinds of criteria. So I may be making 1%, or maybe if I'm really good, then 3%. And yet they're lending out my money for 15, 20 or more percent. So they get to take advantage of my money while it's there. I didn't know any of this stuff. That's the tip of the iceberg. I also didn't know that there were instruments I could put my money in that, had I done it then, financially, I'd be set in a way that I can't even imagine. I can imagine now, but I couldn't imagine then. So those 5 financial IQs, making money, protecting your money, budgeting your money, leveraging your money, improving your financial information, is part of the path or the task that one needs to engage in order to get to the place where you and your wife have gotten to, Dr. Martin. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. And before I do, you mentioned something about, the fact that I'm well educated and then I have an advantage. Actually, it's a disadvantage.
Talk about that.
When it comes to money. Does that make sense? Because I was working already with the great career, right? I was making about $250,000 of base pay. My wife was making about $150,000, so making like $400,000 to $500,000 already, right? To leave that to go to a new career, that's crazy if you think about it. So, and then I discovered that smart people develop financial concepts for not so smart financial professionals to make money with. So my job, frankly,
restate that. I want everyone to hear what you just said. Smart people
develop financial concepts for not so smart people to make money with. So you have all these economists, accountants, financial analysts. They're the ones that create the tools, the concepts, and then they give it to not so smart people, and they're the ones that are making the money. The bankers don't have to be that smart. It's just the way the system works. So for me, I tell people something: you have to act a little bit dumb to become financially free. Because if you try to use your intellect, they put you to develop right? So that's something I had to struggle with. Like, how do I kind of don't try to act too smart? Financial stuff is simple. That's why we say to keep it simple. We make it overcomplicated, and then we kind of miss the point.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about like the wealth equation, those 5 things that you just mentioned can be summed up in a couple of lines. And I put it this way. It says, when you make income, you subtract all your lifestyle, you have savings. It's really that simple. You make your income, subtract all your living expenses, you have savings. Now, for most people, what do they have? I always explain it this way. When I was young, when I started working, I was single, right? So I had a good career already. My lifestyle was simple, so I had more savings. And then I got married, right? Then 3 kids. So guess what happened to my lifestyle? It went up, but my income didn't change very much. So guess what? My savings went down.
Mm-hmm.
That's why in the US, most people have what we call negative savings or debt, right? And so the point is, we strive to have more savings because that's the foundation of building wealth. If you don't make income, you cannot become wealthy. That's why it says you have to make money first, right? But when you make money, you have to have a lifestyle. Then whatever is excess, that's what you save. But how you save the money makes all the difference too.
Yes. Yes.
And if you put it in the bank, you have to understand the process of building wealth is 3 simple steps. The first one is called the accumulation phase. What does that mean? Wherever you have your savings needs to be making some growth, interest, or profit, whatever you want to call it. Now, putting your money in the bank doesn't really make it that much interest. That's the first issue. Now, even if you put your money in something like stocks or mutual funds, whatever you use, or in the 401k, it has a tendency to go up and then to go down.
Or down.
Then it goes up, then it goes down, right? That doesn't build you wealth either.
Correct.
So you have to have a way to protect the growth that you make or the profit.
Yes.
That's why understanding financial knowledge is key. Like, what strategy can you apply in your portfolio to make sure that when you put money in a financial vehicle, you can protect it from losing? But the other aspect of protection is what? If you lose your source of income, either by being sick or passing away, then the income part is gone, so you have no savings.
Correct.
So that's why we talk about the concept of life insurance, but it's about what? Income protection. That's really what that means. Right? And then the last phase of building wealth, we call it what? The distribution phase.
Yes.
At some point, you're going to take your money out of any tool, whether it's a bank account, 401k, stock, or whatever. But what happens most of the time you try to take your money, what the government wants to put their hand in your money.
Taxes.
Right? So you're going to tax it. You have to understand taxes as well. So the point is, what I just explained is what we call the wealth equation. You have to be savvy in those 5 areas. But when we list them, it doesn't look like interrelated, but it's totally interrelated. And this is amazing. I ask most people, we all desire to be wealthy, correct? And I've been asking everyone, did your parents, your job, or your school teach you how to become wealthy? And the answer is always no. And I'm like, how do we strive, all of us, to become wealthy, but no one is teaching us how to become wealthy? It's kind of crazy. That's why I'm very passionate about empowering people with the right information, because that's where everything starts. But even when you know the information, you have to take action.
Yeah. Powerful. There are a number of questions here. I want to capture some of them. A lot of compliments to you and your wife, Dr. Kwende. And then I'll just have one come up. That's Wendo, Nelson Chen. And then, of course, congratulations. I want to also indicate and thank you, Hawa. She's appreciating both of us. We're doing amazing to her. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I'm just going to highlight some of these important statements that are being made here. Thank you, Tomoko. Thank you. Here's a question. How do people think big? What does thinking big mean? How has that helped you both?
Okay. Thinking is basically, how we see what is possible, right? And it's just a matter of perspective. If I ask someone to like aim low, like aim at something this way, and I ask them to aim at something high, how much energy does it take? The same amount of energy, right? So if I ask someone to look at the glass that has water, like, halfway, they can tell me it's half empty or it's half full. It's the same situation, but how you interpret that makes all the difference.
Perspective, mindset.
Right. So thinking big is really just a mindset. Seeing what is possible than what is not. Right. That's all that it is. If you see the same situation, you can interpret it one of both ways. It's really a matter of perspective. That's really all it boils down to for me.
Yes, it's interesting. A gentleman that was on last week, one of the gentlemen, Nana, made a brilliant statement, and I'm not going to do it justice, but the essence of what he said is, just remember, everything you're experiencing is all in your mind for every one of us. And so we're creating our reality. Yes, there are things that are happening, period. But how we interpret what's happening is really all up here in our mind. And our mind is in every cell of our body, not just in the brain. And the mind is so connected to the heart. In fact, we know so much from brain and heart research, the power of the heart. And so I just want to remind people always, remember to protect that heart, to leverage that heart, because there's more activity happening in that heart space that literally vibrates throughout every aspect of the body and beyond. And so you tune in when you make a decision, you're really driven by that emotional mind that's connected to the heart. Honor that. Don't negate it. Don't do what some people say, oh, you're just being emotional. Well, of course, 95 to 90% of what we do, according to scientists, is driven by the emotional mind. So yes, we are being emotional, but we can be mindful of those emotions and use our intellectual mind to literally shift things, shift them until we end up in a different paradigm where it's exactly what we want. And we see the challenges as just that, opportunities to leverage to move forward. There's a question, the first question that Jet has from audience members before the show. Can you put that up, Jet, as yes, fascinated with wealth this person is. Now that I know it is more than finance, I feel relieved. But still, I do not know how to accomplish what I want. Can I be confident before accomplishing what I want?
The simple answer is yes. You cannot accomplish something without the confidence, if you ask me, right? If you, all of us right now, wherever you are, just look around you, okay? Just look around. If you see a microphone, you see the program we're using right now, you see a book, you see flowers, whatever you see, that began as a thought in somebody's mind somewhere, right? But someone had to believe that whatever they were thinking could be real. In fact, they say if you want to accomplish anything, you have to go to 3 simple steps. The first one is that you have to think about it first. Anything you want to accomplish, it comes first from a thought. Then the second step, you have to write it down. That's like a plan. Then you have to go execute the plan. That's it. 3 simple steps. Think about it, write it down, then go do it. There's nothing that exists without that. So my point is, if you want to think about your finances, you have to do the same process. What do I want financially? You write it down, okay? And then you go execute. But you have to start by thinking about it. So if you ask me, do you need to be confident? Absolutely. If you're not, you're not going to believe that it's going to happen. Without the belief, nothing. That's an expression of faith, right? To believe that something that you don't yet see can happen. You have to be confident.
Yeah. And as I bring up this comment for people to see from Esther, and thank you, Esther. She says, phases of building wealth, accumulation, protection, distribution. You master these 3 phases. You are well on your way to being one heck of a wealthy individual. Thank you so much, Esther. I want to share with those of you who may feel like you don't have confidence, but you're thinking, I have faith. I would say, don't sweat it. Do what you just heard. Imagine big. get out of your way and say, what is worthy of me as a remarkable manifestation of greatness that I have yet to realize in a way that I can even see. So just start with that. Imagine, and then be concrete, put it in writing, and then take action, execute. Even if you don't believe, there are people who believe in you. And I know too many folks, including myself at times, when I didn't believe something, I just wanted it done. So I didn't care about my belief. I just wanted it done. And before I knew it, years later, it was done years before. And it was like, what was the big deal? And so in the same way that I look back at my life and the accomplishments, which have been numerous, and I'm so grateful for them, including the difficulties I had because they got me prepared for the subsequent accomplishments. And I would say that Dr. Kwende and his wife are the same way, and his team. See what you can imagine. Go there. Take action. Take action. Yeah. I'm going to highlight a few others. Thank you both for this live chat. It's very informative. Thank you, Sara. Oh, wonderful. Thank you both for the wealth of knowledge. Thank you, Adeline. Yes, beautiful spirit. And then if someone writes, strongly agree. I think it's Mu Kanju. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Okay. Oh, and Rose. Thanks to both of you. Real knowledge. Yes. And then Serpentine, is it Serapine? Excuse me, Serapine. Congratulations, Adeline and Dr. Kwende. Yeah, talk about the power of having a crusade. There are a lot of thoughts I have, but let's go to another question. Jet, can you bring up another question? Sorry about that. Oh, you said it earlier. Dr. Martin, you said, money is the root of all evil. So many of us have heard that, as this person says, right? This is what I was told throughout my life. I think it affected my actions, my life. I want to have lots of money to do things, but always have too little. Well, my humble perspective is we are all programmed without exception. Whether it's explicit, someone says, you must do this, and they drill it into us, or just the environment. Television tells us something, music tells us something, and we're taking in all the different input. That's part of food. And we have to decide what actually feeds us and what doesn't. So if you're still hearing that, turn that down, turn it off, and then rewrite the script. You decide what money is. Money is a means. For me, money is a means for me to build the legacy that will transform the nature of countless lives, millions of lives. So it is not an in and of itself. It's a means. And yet what's more important than the money itself to get there and to go beyond there is the financial education for me. So be clear about what's important to you, and then honor the fact that you've got these values that you didn't decide on, that you just adopted, and they're influencing your life, and decide to put them to the side and say, you may or may not have served me. Write down what you want to serve you, and literally through a habitual process, daily go back to that script, go back to it, and rewire yourself so that you're now in a space of money provides X, Y, Z, whatever it is you want it to, in order to honor it so it comes to you. I had a conversation, as I was telling Dr. Martin earlier, with one of my brothers, Ernesto. His wife and I fondly call him. And we were talking about the power of, my interpretation is the power of choice and of creating rituals that allows us to experience what we want. And that's part of the message today. Dr. Martin?
Yeah, I just want to comment about this question of money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. I just want to say quite strongly, this is the power of miseducation. Okay, that's why we strongly talk about financial education. if I recall correctly, that quote is a miseducation. In what sense? The Bible says that the love of money is the root of evil, not money.
Mhm.
Okay, so somebody missed a word out there just to
Mhm.
to make people not pay attention to it. So they make you hate something that you should understand. That's called miseducation.
Yes, and Antonio just hit it the nail on the head. He says
Exactly.
1
So yeah,
Timothy
First Timothy
6:10.
6:10, right? So
Yes.
that love of money is not the money. Okay. So for example, when I educate people about protecting your wealth and I talk about life insurance, people say they hate life insurance. It's not about life insurance, it's about income protection. So my point is, when we get miseducated, we actually, it's intentional that the system is miseducating us, so we miss the things we're supposed to know. How can you say that 95% of the population is trained to go have degrees like I did, just to have a job so you can stay broke your entire life? That's miseducation. The day that somebody showed me that cash flow column, I'm like, hey, I'm out. So when people say stuff, this is why we have to educate people about what they need to know, because this miseducation is leading people the wrong way. Only one word can be taken out of context, everything changes.
Yes. Yes. And the
If
key
you
thing,
love and somebody says money is the root of all evil, right? Just taking out two words changes everything for a lot of people.
yeah. Yes. I'm going to read some things because prior to this broadcast, I heard some of this. And I don't earn enough money in order to save. I'm deeply in debt. I can't afford to buy a home. My car is broken. How do I find the money to fix it? I have X number of dollars, whether it's $100. What should I invest it in, even if it's 10,000? My child wants to go to college, but we don't have the money. I don't have enough money for retirement. I don't like my job, but I can't afford to quit. I'm retired and I'm running out of money. I can't afford the surgery. On and on and on and on. Those are real facts. They are facts in the lives of countless numbers of people, especially now, given the current conditions. And I say to all of us, we can stay in those conditions and it's hard to get out of them for some of us, or we can decide to get out and then look for ways to do it in a sustainable way. So without, and my intent is not to preach. I'm not a preacher. That's not my area of expertise. My intent is to remind people to become educated. Take that little time. It really is not a lot of time. If you're using an hour a day that you would otherwise just be watching television, turn off the television. If you need to see it, program it. Spend that hour reading text that you would otherwise not be familiar with, that helps you become financially educated, where when you begin to think about what you have, you're like, well, I do earn enough money to save. Wow. Okay. And I'll give you an example. So I have a goddaughter who has 2 homes that she inherited, and she has limited resources and a lot of demands on her. And that young lady, when she was only making about $25,000 a year, which most people would say in the Bay Area is insufficient to pay rent, let alone pay for 2 homes, she made it happen because she imagined that she could do it. I'm ready to jump in. She's like, no, God, mommy, I've got to figure this out. This is my responsibility. Okay. And she figured it out. So the point is, we can stay where we're at. I could have stayed where I was many years ago in a funky environment where I was not going to live. I chose. At some point, we choose to change the circumstances. And that's the power of being human. We get to choose. Dr. Kwende?
Yeah. So, I like to think a little deep sometimes. This is the part that, I think is so important. Every one of us as a human have a certain number of hours in the day. Every one of us the exact same amount of hours. That's 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah,
Most of
I
us
love
have
this.
this one head, two eyes, normally, right? And I used to ask myself, how is it possible that Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg are significantly more wealthy, even though we have the same 24 hours a day, right? Because that's the question we need to ask.
Yes,
What's the resource that everyone has the same? It's time.
it's how they use their time.
Exactly. So the question is, when somebody says, I don't have enough,
Mhm.
that's a good question, but that's not what the issue is.
Mhm.
We have the same amount of time. So the real question is, how are we using the time?
Mhm.
Right? So if you want to become wealthy, for example, every one of us starts by applying that time or employing that time to create some foundation. So for me, it was having a degree and having a job, right?
Mhm.
For someone else, Bill Gates, he created a program. Hear what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But what happens after you create some foundational income?
Mhm.
What you do after that, that's what makes the difference.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
But everyone has the same amount of time.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
point is that if you want to become free, you have to take that time and go make it multiply. Right? There's a parable of the talents where they gave resources to several people, and one of them went and buried it, and they came and took it away from him. Because you're supposed to make the stuff that you're given grow.
Mm.
That's why we live, right? When you're given a talent, you have to go make it grow. So my point is what part of our financial education is, if I took an individual, an engineer, scientist that has studied, is making enough money, we can use that, the savings, and convert it into real wealth
Mm.
by leveraging
Mhm.
financial information. So the reason why people are broke is because, first, yes, they have the same amount of time, but they're not seeking the right information to take that time and
Yeah.
apply it in a way that multiplies. That's the essence of why we do what we do. Everyone can become wealthy, but they don't teach that. I just talk about the 3 steps. The first one says what? Accumulation. That means whatever you have needs to grow.
Mhm.
If it doesn't grow, then you cannot become wealthy. Putting your money in the bank does not grow. So that's not a way of becoming wealthy. But guess what? The system insists that we all have to put money in the bank. Every 2 weeks, you get a paycheck in the bank. Like, seriously? That's where we try to fix. But everyone starts from the exact same place. The difference is what you do with the time that you have.
Yeah. Carl Oliver Jr., it's wonderful to see you here. Can you expound more on the protection phase of building wealth to combat the ups and downs of a 401k, stock, mutual fund, etc.? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. So basically, you just have to understand, this series is called Keeping It Simple. There are essentially 3 ways that your money can grow. 3 simple ways. Okay. The first one is called fixed. That's like you have your money in the bank in a CD, and they tell you they're going to give you 1 or 2% for the next 2 years or whatever. That's called fixed return. That's perfectly okay. The issue with that when it comes to your money is something called inflation. Over time, inflation is about 3%. That's kind of the average. So if you're making 1% on your money in a CD, then you're still losing. I say you're safely losing. Okay. But that's one option. The second one is what they call variable. The one where the market goes up, you get excited, and the market goes down, you get to cry, then it goes back up. The challenge with that is something called the big lie. What does that mean? It's very simple to understand. If you had $100 in an account and the market were to go up 50%, you're going to gain $50, you're going to go to 150. But if the same market goes down 50% with 150, that means you're going to lose half.
That's right.
You're going to find yourself at 75, even though you initially had 100. So if you want to go back up to 100 from 75, you have to basically what? To 150, you have to double, which means what? Every time you lose money, you have to make more just to make it up. That's called variable. Okay. And that's what most people use, by the way.
That's right.
Then the last option is what we call index growth
Yeah.
strategy, which means what? You put your money in an account. If the market goes up, you're going to make a gain. But market goes down, they lock your gain so you don't lose it. Up, you make a gain, down, you lose again. That's called index growth strategy. Those are 3 simple strategies you can apply to your portfolio. So if you have a 401k, stocks, mutual, whatever you have, you need to ask yourself, what strategy is my money growing in? You have the freedom to choose the one that works best for you. When I've asked most people a simple question, would you rather have the fixed, the variable, the index, almost invariably, they want the index. The
Of course.
truth is that most people don't know about it. That's why we educate.
Yep. Powerful. I think there's another question, or at least there's a statement. Kinsley, what happens when scripture is improperly read, interpreted, and understood? That verse never said money is the root of all evil. Yes, he's going back there. The love of money is the root of all evil. Thank you, Kinsley, for just reiterating that. Let's see. Here we go. Adeline, thank you. For someone who did not have a father figure and he did not have a mom for most of your life, what makes you develop the idea of wanting to give to your wife and family what you never had? I love that question.
That sounds like my wife. Well, I always believe that, because I didn't have something, maybe that was a pointer for me to pay attention to it. Right? And so I've always wanted to leave my environment better than how I found it. So when I married my wife, I wanted her to be better than when I found her. Okay. My kids, I want them to be better. My community, I want it to be better than when I found it. Why? Because I believe I'm a blessing. Every one of us is a blessing to each other. Right? So I look at myself like I have to bring something. Whatever God gave me, I have to give it out. I have to die empty. Right? So when I'm looking at everything that I have to do, I need to live where I am better than how I found it. That's kind of my perspective. So that's why when I look at my kids, I look at my wife, I have to leave them better. I did not come from wealth, so wealth has to come from me.
Yeah, I love that saying. And that's real. And that's true. One thing about your story, I know we're going to talk about it in the future, but I want to bring it up right now. I remember when we had one of our initial conversations and you talked about how you just make a decision and you go all in. And when you met your wife, you didn't know her. You made it very clear to her, I'm marrying you. You were not ambiguous. You had a level of confidence that was not born out of some nonsense. And it was profound. Can you talk a little bit about that? Not to embarrass you, cause you to change colors or embarrass your wife, but really talk about that spirit in you that once you make a decision, you're all in. Because I think that's part of some of our challenges when we think in terms of anything related to finance, because we've not been well educated. We've chosen as a society not to embed that in higher education in terms of it's linked to K through 12. In fact, I don't even know unless some instructor or teacher decides to bring it in, it's not part of the core curriculum. So how is it that you just go all in? Because I think this is critical for people to understand, not walking that thin line of I'm partially in, I'm not in, but just going all in and making it happen.
I'm not sure whether to say it's intuition or whatever, but the things that I've been able to do in my life, they work because I always went all in. If I know that is good and my spirit tells me that is what I need to do, then I do it, right? In spite of the challenges that I expect to go through. When I met my wife, I told her she was going to be my wife, but it didn't happen right away. And I knew it wasn't going to happen right away. It took about 2 years. So I knew there was going to be a process, but I was not afraid of the process. I think most of the time we choose not to make a commitment because we're not willing to go through the process of it.
Yes. Hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Tyrone writes, what advice would you, with the you of today, give you 20 years ago? I don't know if he's speaking to me or you, but you go for it.
That's a deep question. I think I would have committed to more stuff quicker. It took me 4 years to understand this opportunity that I'm dealing with right now. It took me 20 years in the corporate world to figure out that it didn't work. Right? So if I was talking to me before, I'll be able to discern things faster. Because we take way too long to figure out what doesn't work. This is why I started making commitments more, because I figure that if it feels right and it's good, then it's going to always work out. Right? But it took some time to get to that point. So yeah, if I talk to me 20 years before, I'll commit more and I'll be willing to go through the process faster.
That's so interesting of a question, because in my speaking with my brother this morning, or maybe it was you, I'm sorry, I'm floating. You're like a brother, a new brother. And I was thinking, I don't want to change any of my past, because I'm not certain I'd be who I am. And who I am right now, and my foundation is pretty solid and incredible, considering all the stuff, including stuff I wouldn't want anyone else to experience. So what I would say to that younger person, though, is have more fun. I didn't have a lot of fun because I actually didn't think it had a place. I had a trajectory. I needed to be educated. I needed to make a difference. I needed to bring in millions of dollars. I needed to transform institutions. I needed to impact people's lives. And it never occurred to me that I needed to be well to do that first. And yes, I did a lot. Yet how much more profoundly effective would I have been had I just relaxed a bit and had fun? And I love that being part of the 5 that actually ensures wealth. So now I relax a lot more. I have to for my overall well-being. And I spend time with my dog. I vicariously spend time with different nieces and nephews, not as much, and because of the physical distance. I would say have fun, because I've always been make a decision and then work, execute, and make it happen. And I've been extremely fortunate because of that exercising choice to have experienced everything that I've asked for to date. No exaggeration. I do have an important caveat that I've given to the Great Spirit. Never let anything come to me that I think I want, that I'm passionate about, and I think it's great, and it doesn't serve me. So be clear. You're probably going to exceed your expectations when you make that choice to pursue a goal that's worthy of you. More you want to share, Dr. Martin?
Well, I truly believe that, when it comes to money, to wealth, it's very important to not make it more complicated than it really is. And I think I'm not going to say what I want to say in this way. My understanding, like I said, that smart people create concepts for not so smart people to make wealth. That's absolutely true. So it's almost like one has to start changing how we think about what we know. That's why this title says keep it simple. It's not supposed to be complicated at all. Okay, they say if you know something very well, it's easy to explain it. Right? So if somebody tells you something that sounds complicated, they probably don't know very well what they're talking about. It has to be simple. That's the challenge that we have when it comes to money, is that we think that is that complicated, but it's really not. The process of building wealth, making income, is not supposed to be complicated. Okay, you put your time into something, it makes you some money. You're supposed to then multiply that money by leveraging it, right? You're supposed to put yourself in the position where you can leverage other people's time, because someone is always leveraging your time. I was asking everyone, like, hey, if I work, someone's going to make something from my time, and that's perfectly okay. But is it okay for me not to then make from other people's time? That's not right. That's where the issue is. If I allow someone to make from my time, I should have the freedom to make from other people's time. That's all that I changed, right? I used to make companies for other people.
That's right.
And they use my time. And that was perfectly fine. But now I also take advantage of other people's time. And that's all that you have to do differently.
Yeah. Jane asked the question, Dr. Webb, you mentioned the word need multiple times. Would it be okay to share where the need comes from and what made you shift from it? I hope I'm going to capture, I'm going to answer the right question. When you say need multiple times, uh, I'm not certain if you're talking about when I was young and I needed to survive, and then what shifted me from that survival state to recognizing that I already have, I mean, literally what I need, what I, and let me be more concrete. So I remember not knowing where I was going to put my head down. And yet I had the understanding that at some level, my needs were met, that I was still driven consciously in this survival mode. So I've got to go to college. I have to get a degree. I have to, I'm going to have housing there and I got to stay there. I've got to be successful in order to be able to stay in housing. It never occurred to me that, oh, wait, you're working graveyard. You have your own apartment. You don't need the college anymore. Luckily, that didn't occur to me because I was so driven by that initial need. That need safeguarded me, got me grounded. And so it was a catalyst. But then when I realized that was a survival need, I don't need to worry about surviving. I need to be worried about designing the life that I want to experience. That happened when I had some major emotional challenges that was manifested in a physical challenge that was profound, that led the doctors to say, you won't live to the age of 20. And I decided to go in and literally go through my body, imagine my apologizing to all the cells, to my blood, to the organs, and honoring that they're great, they come from greatness, and that I'm actually healed long before all the tubes were taken out and I was out of the hospital. And then I become a test case because when they go in to do the surgery, there's nothing there. And then I become a test case. And all my focus was get out of this hospital right away, get back to school, finish what I'm doing because I'm responsible for building the life that is going to be transformative. No one else was responsible. So whatever I focused on that was about survival didn't serve me. Stop it. Whatever my issues were with regards to abuse, stop it. I'll figure it out later. But right now, I've got work to do. So that shift happened when I realized my ability to shift my own well-being. And everyone has that capacity, independent of what's going on. You get to shift your mind in an instant, as Dr. Martin indicated earlier, with the glass either being half full or half, it's all a matter of perspective. It's the mindset. I choose for my glass to always be either full, half full, a quarter full. It's always about being full, whether it's because I need to share it with others, I need to edify others, I need to edify myself. So the shift happens when I recognize my real inherent gift that's given from the Great Spirit to all of us. And I'm no more special than you or anyone on this planet. When we understand our power, shifts happen. Anything you want to share as a summary? Because we've gone over and I love it. I think we can go on for an hour, but we want to respect your time, everyone's time, etc.
Great. I just want to thank you, obviously, Dr. Webb, for hosting this. And also, wherever you're watching across the world, I just want you to understand that you have incredible power, okay, which is your mind, to imagine anything that you want, okay? And you have, I mean, people call it, some, superpower, whatever, but I call it God. That's me, because that's what I understand. But whatever you call it, right? There's something bigger than you. We're not put on this earth just to exist. We're put on here to make a difference. And you have the power to make that difference. I just want you to believe in yourself and know that you are a blessing to others, no matter what it is. Even Judas Iscariot, that sold Jesus, had the purpose. Right? Because if he didn't do what he needed to do, we will not be talking about it the way we're talking about it right now. He had his purpose to serve. We all have a purpose. I just want to make sure that we fulfill the purpose for why we're here. Right? I hope that in my life, I'm going to fulfill the purpose for why I came, so that other people are going to be blessed. I hope you feel the same. Because if you know me, I'm going to give you my best, but you're not going to keep my blessings either.
Mm.
So thank you.
Yeah. My gratitude to each one of you too. And I echo everything that Dr. Martin has shared. And I want to just remind us, when we experience a brick wall of any kind, I think I know Dr. Martin will agree, it's an indication that we're on the right track. We may need to change course a little bit. We may need to garner additional support, but we are on the right track when we experience challenges. So please welcome them in a way where you learn from them and you move forward. And we are doing this every month. So you are welcome to go to leadlivenow.com and indicate that you'd like to receive weekly updates, monthly updates, and you'll also see the schedule of our the wealth equation online here with you, in support of you. And just know that as we move forward, we're going to be even more concrete in terms of the financial education that we deliver. And I am so honored to do it with you, Dr. Kwende, especially as I'm in a deep learning phase at this time, to unlearn some things and to learn things anew. So it's an honor to do this with you.
Thank you.
Okay. And I want to thank all of you for sharing your gratitude. Really appreciate it. And the power that you experience with us, I think is, look in the mirror, you'll see that power. So we're just illuminating some aspect of you. I firmly believe, leverage it in a way that works for you. And I'm going to ask this gentleman who's in the background and always supportive. He's in the Philippines. Jethro, would you please bring up so we could see what's happening next week? And for those of you across the planet, we're going to have a special session the week that we honor as giving thanks in different ways across cultures. And so join us next Wednesday. Be ready to share what you have as a gift that you want to share with others. And so we'll have particular individuals there. Yet we'd like for you to join us as well and share whatever gifts you'd like to share with those across this planet. It's an honor. Thank you so much for being here with us.